Many of you know that I predominantly work the southwest coast of Florida. So for me, that's going to cover anywhere from Sarasota down to as far south as Marco Island. Yes, I work with a team. I don't personally cover every single spot along the way, but I'm very familiar and I talk to lots and lots and lots of people over the past many years regarding this area as a real estate agent, and also someone who has lived in Naples, Bonita, and Estero. I have lived in all three, so it's kind of run the gamut. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about why people leave Naples, Florida and never move back. Why for some people, not everybody, okay, not everybody, but for some people, it is the grand disappointment of a lifetime. So we're going to talk through that because I don't want that to happen to you. All right. So before we jump into this, let me give you a brief introduction. My name is Barrett, pastor, and I've been a real estate broker for 27 years. So hopefully I'm coming to you from a place of knowledge and experience, and I can help you navigate all this confusion about Florida. Because there's good, there's bad, there's somewhere in between, and that is okay. Because if anybody tells you one place is all bad or one place is all good, they're lying. Can we just agree that does not exist? I mean, listen, it is not news to you here on this channel that I am not a fan of Cape Coral, but I can come up with 4 or 5 good things about Cape Coral. So nothing is all bad or all good. All right, so today we are going to dive into the reasons that really jump out, the reasons that a lot of people mention. So the obvious question from there is, okay, Barrett, so then where are they going? Tell us where they're going, I need to know. All right, so here's the thing. I have mentioned in many videos that if you make it past that first year of being homesick, that first year is going to be tough. You're going to have homesickness. You're going to be adjusting. You're going to be getting used to the fact that the cable people don't show up, or they lay a line for your internet and then it lays over your grass for the next year. All these things that are kind of like, oh, I don't love that. So I mention a lot on my videos that in the first year, you're going to be homesick. You're going to have an adjustment period. It's going to be difficult. You're going to cry in your den alone, and it's going to bother you when you miss birthday parties or somebody's graduation or something like that. It's going to happen. Expect it, prepare for it, know that it's normal. That's just part of being homesick a little bit and adjusting to your new environment. And the first time you do, I don't know, something like Instacart pickup and half of your groceries are wrong, you're going to want to go home. The first time that you order your internet and they don't show up, you're going to want to go home. These little things that probably happened from time to time in your home state, they're going to stand out a whole lot more to you in that first year because you're adjusting. That is normal. Now, at the third year, that's when people sometimes say, you know, I gave it a fair shot, but I don't want to be here. That happens sometimes. And when that happens, a lot of times people are going back up north. That's pretty common. Or you might be somebody that in that 3-year period, you realized that you didn't like the area you chose, and there's an area about a half-hour away that you like better. So that happens as well. And then your next jump is really the 7-year mark. And a lot of times that has to do with life changes or big equity gains and you're ready to cash out. That can be anything. 7 years is kind of a normal mark to move for a lot of folks. So in answer to where are people going, a lot of times they're going back up north, especially if they're older, but many times they just found an area that they like better. And the good thing about Southwest Florida is that usually you can do that. If you didn't buy at the peak of the peak of the peak and during COVID, then usually you can get out of that scenario and at least be made whole. And most of the time, you'll also make at least 10% gain. So those are all good things. So the question begs itself, why would anybody leave Naples? Why are people leaving? So here are the top 9 reasons that I hear that people are leaving, and some of these might surprise you. All right, number 1, insane traffic during season. 41, also known as Tamiami Trail, absolute gridlock nightmare most of the time. Immokalee Road, absolute gridlock. Immokalee to me is probably worse than 41 right now. I can't believe how bad it is. So you might say, yeah, but I'm from New York, it doesn't bother me. And listen, it might not bother you, but for a lot of the US, it does bother people. When you can't just drive down the road because you forgot to buy eggs, it does bother you. Now listen, I will tell you there's a couple workarounds. If you can drive Livingston, so let's say Tamiami Trail 41 runs like this, okay? Livingston runs parallel to it. So there's mainly houses, it's mainly residential on Livingston, and that's a really good way to kind of circumvent that problem on 41. You're driving the same direction, you're just going about it a different way. So that's what I usually do, is I'll go on Livingston instead of 41. So you can give that a try, but the other thing is just know that the traffic's going to be really bad during season. It is nowhere near as bad in the off season. You still have a little bit of traffic, but nowhere near as bad in the off season. Too much keeping up with the Joneses. That bothers people when they're in Naples, Florida on a full-time basis. Quick story. I had a retired police officer from Boston, and it was always his dream to move to Naples. His parents had a place in Naples, but his exposure to Naples was always like a weekend or maybe a week at the most, because he was raising a family. So here he is, retired at 58, lucky him, and he's going to move to Naples, Florida. So he booked a condo for 3 months, and the plan was we were going to look around until we found some for him. Ultimately, he did not move to Naples. He did wind up in Estero, but he did not move to Naples because he absolutely hated it, because he felt like he was regular Joe that worked hard, you know, typical salt of the earth kind of guy, and he wanted to shoot the breeze with friends, have a cigar here and there, some coffee, talk about the old days, make new friends. What ended up happening was places like 5th Avenue, 3rd Street, downtown Naples, these areas that in his younger years seemed like something he would strive for and what he would really love. He felt completely uncomfortable, out of place. There was no way on planet Earth. He told me, he said, I spent an afternoon, he said, I thought it was maybe just me. So I spent an afternoon just sitting outside at the Starbucks, people watching. And he said, Barrett, it's not for me. So a lot of times people don't like that, I don't know, auspicious wealth. You just don't want to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And on that note, another thing that I hear, especially from families that moved in. So maybe you're a family and, you know, mom and dad can work remote. It was always their dream to have the year-round sunshine, go to the beach with the kids all the time. Seemed wonderful when you're in vacation mode. That is why I always say I give you the off brochure living. So what tends to happen a lot, more than you would realize, with families that buy in Naples, even if, let's say you bought a house that's $500,000, which is nothing to sneeze at, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath pool home, inland a little bit, and that was your dream home. The kids go to school, and there are kids that they're living in $2, $3, $4 million mansions, and those kids are getting a $100,000 car for their 16th birthday. They can spend $1,000 shopping with their mom or dad's credit card on the weekend, and you don't live that lifestyle. These are things that do come up, especially with families. You know, sometimes you can feel a little bit like you were the big fish in a small pond. Everybody kind of looked up to you. Everybody felt like, boy, Joe and his family, they're doing really well, and now they're moving to Naples. So you get to Naples, and now you are no longer the big fish in the small pond. In fact, you kind of feel like you'd be lucky to live in some of these people's garages. There is nowhere to park at the beaches. Do I need to say any more about that? There just isn't. Unless you're willing to go to the beach at 8 o'clock in the morning, there just is nowhere to park. There is not enough parking at the beaches. You can drive around for a half hour and you're not gonna find a spot at the beach. It's annoying, it's aggravating, and it's really bad during season. No roots. That's another thing that I hear all the time. People feel like nobody is from there. And you know what? That is true. That's pretty accurate. Yes, you're going to find some people that are from Florida, and yes, you might find a handful that are from Naples, but for the most part, that is a city that grew from the outside, not so much from the inside. That's a tourist city. So when I mention this pretty often, it is not uncommon during football season, if you drive through a neighborhood, to see Pittsburgh Steelers and New England Patriots and Green Bay Packers. You see a different flag everywhere because it's not home for anybody, and people miss that hometown rooted feeling. I'll give you one store, and this will summarize exactly what I'm saying. Go to Costco on a Saturday during season. You will wish you hadn't. You will be running for the exits. It is unbelievable. It has to be maxing out capacity. It is unreal how many people are going to Costco on the weekend in Naples, Florida. Then it's like getting into a Frank Sinatra Back to Life concert. You are in gridlock trying to park at Costco. Rude attitudes. Entitled rude attitudes. I'm telling you, listen, I let stuff roll off, but there was one time that I was in line, I was standing in line at Hobby Lobby with my things, and you know, if you know about Hobby Lobby, they are not fast. They don't even have one of the scanners. They have to hand code everything in. All right, so I've been in line about 15 minutes. It's about to be my turn, and all of a sudden this woman walks up behind me, cuts me off. I'm telling you, like hip checks me, cuts me off and puts her two things on the counter. Meanwhile, I'm holding my paint supplies and because I didn't get a cart because I thought, I don't know why, I'm holding it all. She cuts me off and puts her stuff on the counter and says, I only have two things. Now, usually, I would let that go and say, go ahead. But I had just had it. I don't know if I had low blood sugar. I don't know what it was. And the cashier is standing there looking at me like she didn't know what to say. And I said, ma'am, I said, you know what? I don't know where you're from, but you are not that entitled. I said, you can get behind me, go to the back of the line. I was like, absolutely not. And I took her stuff and I just kind of scooted it to the edge. I wanted to scoot it really fast and hard so it landed on the ground, but I didn't go that far. But I scooted it to the edge and I put it down. And do you know, she stared at me for like 30 seconds, like I was going to change my mind. That is not uncommon. I talk about this one all the time. You already know. Elitist healthcare. Concierge doctors. Feeling like if your bank account is not big enough, then you may not make it through your heart bypass. I'm exaggerating there, but you know what I mean. When you have things like entire floors that you can pay more money at a hospital, not a hotel, at a hospital to get a Gulf view, I just think that's wrong. Or to get more nurses or less patients on your floor. That if you're sick, if you had a heart procedure or whatever it is, and you're relying on people to save your life, and you feel like, well, you know, I didn't have enough money, so I had to go on the floor where there's double the patients to less nurses. So yeah, I took another heart attack or a stroke in the middle of the night. Nobody wants to feel like that, and that is a problem. And there is that phenomena. There definitely is that phenomena at the good old NCH hospital. I'm just telling you, look, this is my opinion. I am not a fan, and I have not heard anybody buddy. Other than randoms, you know, like there will be a few. I'm sure they're typing right now.
My cousin's uncle's auntie had the best experience of her life.
I bet it's out there, and I'm sure that did happen for that person. But the predominance of people, they have a bad experience. All right, and the last one that people leave Naples, Florida is it's too seasonal to feel like you're actually living in a community. Now, I will say that it is getting better. It's like just crowded all the time now, but it is still seasonal. It's hard to do things like staff a restaurant or staff a doctor's office. I'm telling you, there's a place in Fort Myers, and it's right in the middle of Fort Myers. Like, it's not like it's on the outskirts somewhere. It's right in the middle of Fort Myers, and it's very common that they have signs up that say dentist needed. Do you ever see that? Like a dentist needed? Like cashier needed, I get that. But a dentist needed? I will see very often emergency room doctor needed, podiatrist needed. It seems like they always need podiatrists, but it's always some sort of doctor needed, cardiologist needed. That just doesn't feel good, and that does kind of fall into the health component again. But so restaurants, I've seen restaurants recently that have signs on the window that says sorry, closed tonight, no one showed up. I mean, that is crazy, and that does happen. So the seasonality of things, it's just hard for a business owner to pay people the appropriate amount when they know that potentially half the year they're going to lose half their income. I'm thinking about doing a series called I'll Never Live There Again and kind of go through all the areas. I hear these things all the time and kind of tell you which areas, who's having the problems, kind of similar to this video that I just did. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing something like that. So, if I can ever be of help, my contact information is always below.